Hi, welcome back to A View from First Grade. We would like to give a follow-up video to our first video on technology. We're going to talk a little bit more about the impacts of technology on our children and how it affects them both at home and at school.
So when children spend time on screens, it really does impact them in a lot of ways. It causes them to sit still, which is a different way of living for children that we're seeing more and more of. There are a lot of ramifications of that stillness. And while there are times, and we want to be sensitive to that too, where you really need a minute and they need to be still or they need to be quiet, and that's a great way to use technology. We want to be really careful to build in some balance there, because that stillness does impact our children. We are noticing that it leads to, and it's not just that we're noticing, but researchers are noticing that it leads to less sensory input. And so when children have less sensory input, they are less aware of how they can function. You may find that a child bumps into others or bumps into walls more often. You might find that maybe they even will fall off a chair at the dinner table. There's lots of different ways that we see that sort of missing piece. We might also notice that their fine motor control is really struggling, because sliding a finger across the smooth glass does not give them the input that they need to learn how to use those muscles well. Those muscles are well developed in real play and in the things that they do outside and with, say, Legos or toys or small things.
We also have looked at research that says that it causes a decline in our students' attention span. Many of the games and videos that the kids watch on screens is very quick. It is fast-paced, it is ever-changing, it is ever-moving. It doesn't really stay on one task or one picture for very long. And it's constantly feeding their need for something new. And so when they have excessive use on technology, it is often harder for them to focus on a task for a long amount of time, or focus on the same task for an allotted amount of time, instead of having this gratification that's instant, where they would get that on a screen. Hey, I don't like this video, so oop, what's the next one? I'm clicking on to something else. Or, you know, there's one answer to something on an app that they're doing, and they swipe and they get the next choice, right? And so we want to find ways where we can limit or choose different methods of how they use screens, where they are working on focusing on tasks for an allotted amount of time. And for first grade, that should be about 5 to 15 minutes to stay on task.
And if you think about it, like if you're trying to understand what we mean by that, I would encourage you to look up, I think we may have even mentioned this in our earlier video, look up the opening song to Paw Patrol. And whenever there's a shift in the like the view, it's not obviously a cut in video because it's animated, but anytime that there's what would be a cut in video, try to count that and see how often are you having to look at a new thing. So just look at the Paw Patrol opening song, and then just for comparison's sake, pull up the opening to what used to be Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Paw Patrol, we'll be there on the double. Whenever there's a problem, round Adventure Bay, Ryder and his team of pups will come and save the day. Marshall, Rubble, Chase, Rocky, Zuma, Sky, yeah, they're on the way. Paw Patrol, whenever you're in trouble. Paw Patrol, we'll be there on the double. No job's too big, no pup's too small. Paw Patrol, we're on a roll. So here we go, Paw Patrol.
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which is shot with one camera and one guy who's calmly singing. But here's the thing, many people were raised watching something like that and learned about that long focus. Now, Mr. Rogers, kind as he was, he had no budget. That's why he had one camera. But I will tell you that very recently, I pulled up a Mr. Rogers video in my classroom, and I didn't know how the students would respond to that. And they literally froze in place. They were completely calm. They were completely taken with it. And honestly, it was such a cool thing for me to see that they could still connect to something so calming and so peaceful. But the way that things are cut now in terms of video, it's those quick cuts. But for Kristen and I, when we're standing in front of a classroom full of students, there's no cut. It's just us. There's one long shot, like Mr. Rogers. And so having our children learn to pay attention to something for a longer period of time is really helpful to their academic success, because whether it's us or whoever they're going to be with, they need to be able to attend for an extended period of time. So that is a really important thing.
Research also says that excessive screen use has a reduction in imaginative play. So the screens are thinking for them. And I know even my own children, when they ask to watch a video, they're watching other kids play with toys. And sometimes I'm like, why is that interesting to you? You have those exact toys that you can physically play with. And sometimes I get a response like, well, I never thought of playing with it like this. And then look at it, they're doing so much fun with the same toys that I had. It is one way to get ideas, but how much more beneficial is it for them to do that themselves, to be creative, to be thinking? We notice this a lot when it comes to writing. Writing and coming up with an idea for a topic. It can be very hard for first grade students. They're just not able to retrieve an idea and then run with it and write about it. And so the more time that they're outside, the more time they're making up games, the more time they're doing pretend play, the more time they are playing with physical toys and can be imaginative and make believe and make this own world or make rules to a game. They are practicing these skills, which will help them in many different areas.
The other thing that's really important for us to know in terms of the impact of excessive screen use is because kids are playing less, because they're outside less, we are noticing, and research is supporting this, that there is a rise in health concerns for children, whether it is are their cardiovascular or their muscles or all of these different systems just don't have the ability to be used the way they have been previously. Kids are not running the way they used to previously. And so those things are leading to health issues for students, and that's really a huge concern. Obviously, as teachers, as parents, we really want our children to be healthy. And so playing outside is still, to this day, one of the best ways for us to raise healthy children. The inside of these buildings that we're in, whether it's school or home, have more germs, have more things that cause complications for our students and for our children than outdoors. Outdoors, they're getting vitamin D, and vitamin D actually helps to build their immune system. And so we really want our children to be playing outside. You know, school obviously believes this because we are committed to a lot of recess during the day, but it is something I tell my students all the time. On a Wednesday early dismissal, you've got plenty of time, please go home and play outside. So that playing outside is one of the ways that we can combat some of those health concerns. And you as a parent have to evaluate that yourself and figure out, do I feel like my child is generally healthy? Do I feel like they're growing and developing those good outdoor skills? We want our students, and you want your children to be comfortable outside. You know, Richard Louv has written a book called The Last Child in the Woods. I highly recommend it. And he talks about how important important it is for us to raise the next generation to know and love and respect creation, the whole world outside. And so if they're not outside, it becomes almost a fearful place, right? And we don't want them to be afraid of that. We want them to be running and engaging with nature. Here at school, we're coming up with new ways for them to do that all the time, and we're really excited about that. But in order for them to have the time in the day to engage with creation in those ways, they just need less screen time. And so that's something that we really do want to encourage. And there's lots of ways to play outside. And sometimes we feel like, oh no, I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to have to be the one to do that. But free play and Kristen talked about, yes, independent play and imaginative play. Those are skills that children develop, and they develop them when they're using them. And so we really do want kids to have lots of opportunity.
And often outside, the imaginative play can even be easier because they have less things, right?
Yes.
So they have to use more imagination, less toys in front of them, less options. So, hey, what kind of game can we make up? What can we use outside? Are there some sticks that we find? Or are there logs? Or we're going to play this game of tag, or we're going to make up a new game. And so it allows them to have different options for imaginative play. Along with the health concerns, technology also reduces the amount of sleep that students are getting. We have been, as we talk with students and as we look at research, we know that having screens in our room can be pretty detrimental. Having full access to them without boundaries, it can the blue light on the screens can affect their ability to go to sleep easily. And also if they are so distracted by their screens, maybe they're not going to bed at the right time, or it's just harder for them to wind down when they're not outside exerting their big muscles, exerting energy as much as they are. So we do encourage that screen time is monitored, and preferably not in the room in an open space, just so that it doesn't impact their sleep negatively. They need a lot of sleep. It not only helps them grow, but it helps them be ready, and it helps their minds be ready for what they have to do and learn here at school. And we can see sometimes that students come in and they are tired, or when we have quiet time and they fall asleep. And it's just something that will help them be more productive and more ready for the day here at school.
There are so many things that are impacted by technology, and we really value that you have taken the time even to watch this video. This is something that we want to think through with you. It is something that we are encouraging parents to think about in terms of your own use in your house. Not having screens in bedrooms, or at least in children's bedrooms, that's a great starting spot. But we want to create a life where children are exploring, where they're thinking, where they're dreaming. We have come to a place, and we notice this academically, where when somebody has a question, instead of stopping to think about what might be an answer and using those sort of deductive reasoning skills that we want them to have, they just say, oh, I could look it up. And while it is a wonderful thing to be able to look up almost anything, the problem, I guess, comes in the fact that we will have things that need fixing in the world. We will have things that need addressing in the world that are new. And we need these children to be imaginative, to write the next books, to solve the next problems. And they can't do that if they're not practicing in these really small ways. You might be surprised to know that there is an area on our playground. We're actually going to try to develop this, where they do nothing but play with sticks, and they're super happy doing it. And we're trying to figure out, where can this happen and how can it happen? But they're not fighting with sticks. They're building, they're creating, they're digging. And it's really a wonderful thing to see. That's the sort of play that kids really benefit from. Climbing a tree, playing outside, making up games with a friend or a sibling. Those sorts of things make a huge difference in how their brains and their reasoning and all those things develop. We want them to be able to wonder at things in the way that you and I, we may have looked at clouds and thought, oh, this looks like a cat or a teddy bear. We still need kids to have those sorts of experiences. And again, it's not that technology is bad. It's that we need a balance in how we use it. We need so much more that happens in the real world than what is happening on a screen. And believe me, these children are hearing that from us. We use technology in the room. We love it. It's helpful to us, but we also know that they need to run and scream and play, and all of that is just really, really good for them. As we move forward, if there's things that you would like us to address, we would love to do that. Please be in touch, and thank you so much for listening. We hope that this helps you to think about technology in some new ways.